And welcome back once again to Ask Coach Wendy alongside Wendy Mader from T2Coaching.com. I'm Dave Erickson. Today's question comes from one of Wendy's athletes that she coaches. It's indoor versus outdoor bike training. Clearly, we do a lot of indoor cycling in the winter, but we all know that outdoor riding is probably the best for us. What's the pros and cons of indoor versus outdoor bike training?
So it is a question that I get asked a lot, and there's so much information. You could Google other coaches' opinions, and I think we all have the same. They're both beneficial to some point in time. I think for skills and drills, whether you do it at summertime or wintertime, doing spinning drills and one-legged drills are really good to do in your trainer because there's no elements of terrain changes or weather changes or stopping and going. But also when you're getting ready for the racing season, I think it's so important to ride outside, especially if you're going to race on a hilly terrain. Sure, if you don't have access to hills, it's best to simulate bigger gear intervals and use like a heart rate or power number to gauge your intensity and to really grind indoors. But it doesn't do the same thing as actual riding up and down hills if you're going to experience in that a race. I know a few athletes who year round, they just train inside, and that's great. It's better than not training at all due to where they live or just due to traffic. I mean, traffic these days it's pretty tough, but they'll get on a hilly course and they're just not quite sure how to master the changing gears on the hill because the elements, the terrain is going to be different than a constant ride as you get indoors. And then riding downhill, if you don't have the experience in your aero bars or not riding downhill, you can't get that downhill riding when you're inside on your trainer. So really depends on what phase of training you're in to really say what is the best time to do indoors and outdoor riding. Basically, skills and drills indoors, but race preparation outdoors, if at all possible, I think is so important.
One thing I think is beneficial about riding outdoors is learning how to navigate the roads, whether you're going around corners, dealing with bumps, and the
Yeah.
acceleration, deceleration of dealing with these type of cornering, because you don't get that stationary on a bike. Plus, there's the weather, there's the heat, there's the sweat element, and the wind
Yeah.
elements.
It's just there's so many more elements that you're going to deal with outside. So an example I like to use is when I was training for Ironman Arizona in 2007. I think it was the last year that the race was in April. I lived in Colorado. Most of the time you can train year round in Colorado, but that specific year we got 3 feet of snow in November and December, and it lasted until March. I mean, it was not only the 3 feet of snow that we had, it was the 10 degrees that we had. So really having that winter and training for an April Ironman in Arizona, I trained all indoors. So what happened to me is I got really comfortable training indoors. I'm like, you know what? I can do 4 or 5 hours because I got my coffee, I got my water, I got my bathroom, I got my food. I can take breaks anytime. I got the TV, I got my husband around to entertain me. And really, I noticed that I was really, really comfortable. And so we had the opportunity to go to Arizona over spring break, which was in March. And I didn't have to coach high school swimming, so it was my spring break too. And I got to ride part of the course, and I felt really timid by being in my aero bars on outside with the wind. It was really basically because of the wind and not knowing really how to manage my balance. And so I only had about 5 rides outside before that race. And I remember race day, it was being a flat course. My back was just incredibly sore because I hadn't ridden aero that long. And indoors, you don't do that. I don't. And I did struggle. I did struggle a little bit that year on the bike because I just didn't do the proper outdoor riding build up to that type of endurance event. But I think it applies also to sprints and Olympics. I'm noticing myself training for an Olympic distance right now. When I went to Nashville and I got some training rides in Nashville this past weekend, there were a lot more rollers than what I was used to in Georgia. And I know my course is going to be rolling. So I really had to kind of get in the mindset, just because you're going downhill, it's not that steep. You can stay aero going downhill. So it really kind of helped me riding outside on a similar course that I'm about to race in 2 weeks to just experience staying aero in a downhill position, which I haven't really done much of since I've moved to Georgia. And then in Colorado, when I trained in Colorado, we were going so far up and so far down. I was never aero because it was just too steep to be aero for me. So yeah, definitely the elements that outdoor riding brings is so beneficial as you get into that race preparation phase.
Great topic, indoor versus outdoor bike training. If you had a question for Wendy, use the hashtag AskCoachWendy on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or simply go to t2coaching.com and leave her a message there, and we will hopefully feature it on an upcoming video. So Wendy, thanks very much.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.